Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here to review Secretary from 2002. I feel that this is going to be a lot more awkward than The Human Centipede was, surprisingly, as far as to review it. Uh, but so, let's go on and let's first off give a disclaimer for this review. That I'm to be a person that probably does not exactly condone self-harm. But hey, if people live their life that way, then live their lives. Anything else that is to be further going into this movie that people may have gripes about, I'm to just be like, hey man, I'm just here to just review a film. Like logically, I just need to put a movie out every single freaking day, and I'm trying to do my best to do that. So, regardless of what is to be people's interest or disinterest, like I'm just here doing a film. So let's go on and let's state here that uh, this movie is to have me go on and review it simply because I had gone on and at some point done a James Spader movie called Crash, which ends up having people seemingly infatuated with crashing their cars and also be intimate while, of course, doing so. And then we are to also go on and have a movie like Secretary that is to be a seemingly office romance that builds up to that film that is to have a lawyer who is to have a secretary that goes on and is to seemingly berate this woman until eventually there is an escalation to where it seemingly becomes a physical relationship between the two of them. In the early stages, there is to be slapping. Then it goes on to build into seemingly much more intimate things, which I'll go on and try and figure out a way to say when we actually get into spoilers, because that, of course, will be the challenge. Whatever. But anyways, so also I am to, of course, if people do not remember this film, state that this movie is to feel as if 50 Shades of Grey had completely ripped off this movie. And like this movie and that one are really just the same, even though like 50 Shades of Grey feels more like a date film, and then there are other things that happen intertwined within this film that feels like that one also. So, uh, yeah, so like man, like whoever put this movie together should have like slapped a lawsuit on 50 Shades of Grey, but that never happened. Like I guess it's like, well, I guess it's different enough that like you can't really do anything. But it feels the exact same, right? Like James Spader is called Mr. Grey, that guy is called Mr. Grey. It's very similar. Uh, but I guess nobody enough noticed. But anyways, so we have this film that is to end up having Lee, who is to self harm herself, and then is to go on and make her way into getting this secretary job where her boss is to go on and find out that she is to seemingly go on and do acts like this and be like, you know what, you're never doing this again. Never again you're ever going to do something like this. And as a alternative, it seems that the boss goes on and is to seemingly strike her and then go on to um, do other things that are, I guess, some weird, a strange alternative, which is to eventually have the two of them lead to fall for one another, and they are to continue to challenge one another throughout this film, and then eventually by the end of this movie there is to be this kind of uh, weird, goofy, just kind of ending. because at some points there is aspects of this film that, like when uh, Lee is kind of daydreaming, like there's these whole flowery background things, and I'm just like, okay, all right, like I guess this is to just appeal to a certain kind of person. And then by the end of the film, there is to be this just kind of grassy turf that is to be a bed, and I'm just kind of like, okay, like I guess this is to just go on and cater to a certain kind of person. Um, but yeah, so like really I was just kind of a little like intrigued about what the real target audience of or was of this movie, if I was to actually be that target audience, or maybe I wasn't. But regardless, I watched this movie anyways. If you were to be a first time watcher of this movie, maybe you were to get more out of this movie than I am to have gotten by watching it more than once now. And in all honesty, I'm to feel that probably after more than one time, like it is to have lost its luster for me. There's no shock, there's no surprise, and like otherwise, I'm just to be like, well, like here's a thing that I watched. Like I don't think it is anywhere to say that it is a good film or an okay film or even a fine film. I think that it is a bad movie, but I think that it has a interesting story. I feel that the dark parts of this movie made me go on and realize that I really liked that they tried that idea. I am to also go on and say that I liked the fact that this is again be a character who is to go on and be this kind of wall or shy person, and eventually throughout this film it seems that she is to break away from that and know what she wants and say what she is to want by the end of this film, kind of changing who she is, regardless of what that rationally is to maybe be estranged to a lot of people. I don't really care as long as she is to go on and find a way to just be happy. I could care less about anything else. So, with that said, yeah, um, if I haven't gone and stated this already, if you haven't gone on and seen the Cheryl Stone Baldwin film Sliver, S-I or Sliber, I've reviewed it recently, but you don't have to check out that review. You can just check out the film. And if you look at that film and this film, it's fairly similar, except for there's a whole like camera footage angle going on in that film, and that could be way more interesting that this movie becomes. And if you've somehow found this movie, maybe you'll find that other one and check out that review if you just feel that you just like watching reviews regardless. So, with that said, thank you for going on and watching this, even if it's for like 3 seconds or 20 seconds or 30 seconds, which seems to be the average now. And I'm fine with that because reasonably, I'm just going to keep doing these videos anyways. It bizarrely seems that the channel is consistently growing, and I can't figure out from where at all. Um, like, is YouTube broken? Like, am I really not growing the channel? Like, I'm very confused. Or reasonably, there's probably just certain videos that I'm not realizing are doing well because like I'm not really looking at them like and scrutinizing them from day to day. But regardless, thank you for going on and viewing this and probably viewing others or subscribing if you decide to do so. You don't have to like the video, you just have to view it. Your view is good enough. So with that said, let's go on and let's get into full-on spoils about this, because at the end of the day, it's time to say that it is spoiler time, spoiler time. It's about that time I'm going to spoil this movie. I'm to go on and rationally just, how can I just go on and break down this film without actually breaking down this film, because I can't actually say exactly word for word what goes on in certain pieces of this film. So I'm going to go into innuendos or super secret words and what have you to spell out this movie to you. So by golly, if you have not gone on and seen this movie, you can check it out on Tubi, Tubi. You can also go on to apps called Zelifonic, Zelivonic, and also you can check out a app called Moopzy, Moopzzi, and check out this movie for absolutely free. Some of those apps may have ads and whatever, but logically, you can watch this movie, and by golly, you can freaking watch it. You can freaking watch it. Yeah, get what you need out of it. Because I'm just that guy for you that you get what you need out of this and you call it a day. So, thank you for watching this. I'm gonna go on and pause this video here so I can whip out what I need to whip out. And without a doubt, figure out a way. I think at some point in this movie, also they end up saying the word balls, which I'm like, man, I just saw the movie Scarface and they end up saying balls. So it's good to just keep connecting movies together that I've seen recently. I think it's where Lee goes on and is at this laundromat with Peter, and she's talking about, well, yeah, like the underwear that you're wearing, like it doesn't do well for your balls. So, like, man, we're connecting all the movies together. I'm loving it. It's a good time. So let's pause here. Let's get out the stuff that I need. Regardless, like, we're gonna have a good time. Whatever. Like, we're just gonna do this. It's gonna be good. All right. So there's one part of this movie that I have to be honest about, because F that. So at one point they go on and state that Peter is to have a stable job at J.C. Penney's. Yeah. And it's interesting when Peter goes on and says in this film that he had a nervous breakdown, because I'm like, yeah, buddy, I'm there with you. If you work at J.C. Penney's, yeah, that's probably gonna happen to you. Because I worked at J.C. Penney's. I worked in the back room, stock room, and oh my god, some stories I have to twine and tale there. But man, that is not this kind of video. But G. Willikers, Batman, I can really understand that nervous breakdown coming from Peter when working at the stable job at J.C. Penney's. Probably why he left retail, because I just couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't. Mentally. But hey, here's where we are now. So, in the very beginning of this piece, we have Lee, who's going through the office, and she is taking a piece of paper from a typewriter, because they don't use computers in here. Like, that's the whole thing of it is that Mr. Gray is to tell Lee, it's like, well, we don't use computers, and it's going to be boring. And Lee is like, well, I love boring. Give me boring. So Lee is to go on and be walking through this office, and she is to have this seemingly stick that is to be be held from behind her head, and is to be holding her hands to where she's kind of walking around, and she is trying to have to like figure out ways to like adjust her hands within this stick like thing to grab these items that she is to of course need to put together her jabba. And this is to be just kind of the opening scene that is to like help you understand what is going on in this film right out of the gate. And then we get to 6 months earlier, out of the blue. It's very strange, but that's how this movie starts. So we have Lee in front of this institution, and we're thinking like, oh, did she go to this mental hospital? Or like, it seems that it's like some community college or something. Like, it's some kind of building that they don't 100% clarify what it is. Like, this could just be some building, and Lee is talking to some doctor, Dr. Twardon? Hardon? whatever. And really, I'm just like, okay, I don't really quite get what this building is, but I think I ended up seeing it later as a community college. So I'm like, okay, so Lee used to talk about her schedule. Oh, she is so used to being at this institution, and 8 o'clock it's breakfast, 2 o'clock it's classes, 4 o'clock it's therapy, 10 o'clock she sleeps. So she ends up hugging what I believe would have been her therapist, and then has her mother pick her up. And her mother goes on and tells her that, hey, like, your sister is having this wedding, and it seems that the next thing that Lee is going to do when she comes home is to be there for it, and she's going to be dressed like really great. Like, I'm like, dang, Lee, like, all right, like, she had probably really a very scarce amount of time to prep for this whole thing, but man, does she look great. So Lee meets up with Peter. Peter seems to be this high school friend of hers, and it seems that they're really going on and they're hitting it off. So the two of them go onto the dance floor, and they're dancing awkwardly, which I hope that's what it was like meant to be. It's like, yeah, dance as awkwardly as you can. Because like Peter is going on and he's like lifting up his leg and doing all this stuff, and I'm just like, I hope that was like, yeah, we're gonna dance like this, and it's like cool, like, just do whatever you want to do. Like, you don't have to go on the dance floor and look great. Like, it's very rare that I'm to cut a rug. But whenever I was to go on and do, like, it seemed that people were like, oh right, you can actually dance. I'm like, really? Like, didn't think I knew how to, but okay, great. Um, like, you just kind of just go with the music and just do your best. And regardless of how stupid or silly you look, F it, just freaking dance. Anyways, um, even if you don't know how to dance, just freaking Kevin Bacon learn how to. Watch Footloose and figure out rhythm. Effing dance. Come on, everybody. Everybody should know how to dance. Anyways, uh, Lee ends up meeting with her father, who's a drunk. And honestly, the actor, not the character of this film. I like this actor, but he is to be putting on this character that I like. I'm like, God, like, I hate this kind of character, and I just feel so bad that this actor is to be given this role, because he honestly is like, he's not really given much here, and then also it's just like, what a missed opportunity for specifically for this actor to get a real role that could have been something, and he's just doing this. But anyways, so Lee is hugging on to her father. I'm sure they're dancing and what have you. And her father is holding onto a beer. And Lee is like, well, I thought you quit. And the father goes on like, well, yeah, well, it's just a celebration. Like, he's coming up with some kind of excuse. And he goes on to hand Peter this beer and continues to dance with Lee. And then he goes off to the side, and somebody has to kind of help him kind of get to sit down because he's feeling very unwell. Which I'm like, well, yeah, because he's drank too much. I'm sure he's just a freaking a a boozer, and freaking like, this guy has probably drank a billion beers, and like, he's gonna black out probably at some point, even in this wedding. Really? Come on. So that pushes Lee to, of course, her vice, which is sharp objects, let's say. She has this box that is to seemingly be her ritual box. And she is so close. She sharpens one of the items and she starts to touch her leg and decides against it. I'm like, good for you. Good for you, Lee. And I'm just saying what just kind of popped into my brain while I'm going through this movie, and I'm sure, like, people could be like, "Oh yeah, come on, man." Good for her that she decided, but then eventually you'll see what happens in the movie. You'll see what happens. So yeah, good for her, but like, she's not gonna stick to it. Let's give her some kind of credit here. So Lee then goes on to continue to just be living in the home, and both the mother and father are having a disagreement. They're shouting, and come to find out, the father had lost his job. He had gotten fired, and the father is going on and screaming. It's like, well, yeah, I'm happy that I got fired because I hated that job. And Lee is hearing this, and she's grabbing a tea kettle. And the tea kettle, I'm sure, had been in that oven for a pretty good long time. He takes his kettle and is to put it against her thigh and burn herself. So technically, she is to harm herself in a different way. So Leah's going and she's just swimming in this pool with all of her floaties on. I don't quite know why she had like knee floaties. Like, if you're floating like how she's floating in the water, like you should need floaties. I don't get the floaties. I don't quite understand it, but hey, like whatever floats your boat, I guess. Weird goofy saying here. So the next thing we see is the Claremont Community College, and Lee is going on and she's doing this typing class. It seems like she's doing well. It seems that from eventually when Gray talks to Lee, we find out that she won an award for typing. Good for her. Good for her. So we go on to have Lee that's in the back seat of this car, and she has like a pillow and these sheets, and like her mother is like, well, hey, it's good that you're getting out in the world. You're outside at least. And so this tells us a lot about this character, as well as also like uh yeah, like relatable. I'm sure there's a lot of people that they don't go out very much. I'm to also be that kind of person that doesn't really go out that much. And to also have somebody just go on and tell you that kind of stuff where it's like, hey, you're finally doing something. And it's like, yeah, I'm doing something. Huzzah for me. So come to find out, in Lee's past, there had been at one point where she wanted to go on and wanted to uh, harm herself with a knife, and it seems that she was to find uh, this knife and cut, and because of how she had to do this so quickly, she ended up cutting herself too deep. And that's what led her to, I guess, her nervous breakdown, to eventually go on and seek the help of therapy and therapist and what have you. And good for her. Like, good for her that she got those things. Like, there's some people that probably, yeah, they probably do have problems and they never seek out help. So good for her. And whatever. So, but come to find out, she's been doing this thing to herself since the seventh grade. So I guess it seems oddly she is to. God, this is awful. Um, feel that she is some kind of weird, uh, knowledgeable person of this kind of thing, of harming self, and I'm like, man, wow, okay. So Lee makes her way through the house, and her mother is locking the cupboard. I'm assuming probably just locking up the knives. And the mother turns to Lee. It's like, well, hey, we're just doing this for now. and Lee's like, whatever. So Lee makes her way to the garbage because she's throwing away her stuff that she usually tries to harm herself. I'm like, yeah, do it. Go ahead. Good for you. I'm going to keep saying that probably through a lot of this review. And it's going to probably annoy people. I'm sorry. As well as me apologizing. Keep doing it anyways. It's my freaking review. If people hate it, let me know in the comments below. Then maybe I'll just figure out a way to change it, because I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that I said or did or whatever in a video that I'm sure people don't like. So, like, if you hate something, let me know in the comments below. If you hate these kind of reviews, let me know in the comments below. Because there are probably reasons I go into these kinds of movies and shows, and I can't make everyone happy. And I have a track record of knowing that I haven't made people happy in the past, and it's sad and it sucks, and some people are just to say the weirdest things that have nothing to do with the review, and that is to just be hurtful for reasons I don't understand, uh, but it exists anyways. So Lee goes on to put her assortment of things in this trash, and then she pulls it out of the trash, and then she finds this newspaper that says help wanted. So Lee starts going through the help wanted section, and she starts circling it with this purple pen, going on and hoping that she's going to be a part of the municipal tax office. And then she ends up going on and seeing this secretary job. So she's like, aha, like I have typing experience. Maybe they'll figure out a way to work me in. Like, maybe this may be the job for me. Who knows? So Lee makes her way as to have had her mother drive her, which there's no problem with that. So her mother drives her places. So Lee is to find Edward Gray's office sign that says Secretary Wanted, and bizarrely it's lit up. I'm like, why take the effort into something like that? Seems a little weird. But then also they continue to have a sign like that just there. I don't get why. But so, Lee makes her way into the office to find that it is in shambles. It is throttled all over the goddamn place. It feels like a zoo went through this office. And there might be obvious reasons why. But anyways, so we have this secretary that has this thing of envelope in her mouth, and she's packing up her stuff and leaving. And we find Mr. Gray, who is looking at a photo of Patricia, which I'm assuming is his past lover, because they are signing some settlement deal, and so they're obviously going through a divorce. So, since it seems that there seems to have Lee going through this office just being like, well, like, who do I go to kind of thing. And Lee makes her way to Gray, and she's like, well, I'm here for the secretary job. And so we start to go on and have Gray here start asking Lee questions. Like, hey, are you married? No, but my sister is, and she's going to go on and live in my backyard. It's like, oh, have you ever won an award? Yes, I've won an award for typing. Are those your scores? And so further and further questions start to happen here. And then because there seems to be like a number of questions that Gray continues to ask Lee throughout this movie. It's like, are you pregnant? Like, are you dating? Did you sleep with this person? Yada yada. Like, there seems to be a lot of those kinds of questions that kind of go out through this movie, to really just say that these people are going to have, like, I guess, just a more open kind of relationship besides them being boss and employee. That it seems they're going to try as much as possible to be friends and then probably build up to be more, because of course they are. So Gray ends up going on and asking Lee to get him some coffee with sugar. And so she goes on, she does so. She has a really hard time trying to get the water, because she has to go on and reset uh the water jug on top of the God, what is it? Uh the thing where people go on and they hit the the lever, and like the hot water and the cold water come out, and it has the weird water jug that ends up water cooler, whatever it is. I'm gonna say that. Hopefully that's the wordage of which that fits that. So it's been a long time since I've had to go on and say those words, because I ended up working a retail that had one of those things, and I don't remember exactly what they were actually called. So, and I hope I never have to again. I hope I never have to go on and do that kind of thing. Anyways, so Gray ends up talking to Lee, and it's to ask her, it's like, do you really want to be a secretary, Lee? And Gray is asking this because it's like, well, with your resume, like, I feel that you're overqualified, and all I'm really asking for is a part-time paralegal, and all I need is just a typist. And um like, you know what, like, the more and more he starts talking to her and like looks at her, he's like, you know what, like, it seems like you're really uptight, like you have a wall. And uh like, do you ever think that you're gonna go on and like and fix that, and like, and not be that kind of person? And like, Lee's like, well, I don't know. So like, since there's seemingly no other people that Gray can hire at this point, and Gray is like, well, like, I guess you have the job. Like, less sugar in my coffee next time. But it's kind of weird because eventually, later, when Lee goes on and gets him less coffee, then Gray switches up of like, I need more coffee in this, and she's like, more. He's like, yeah, more sugar. So it's like, so he grinds her gears. He figures out a way to just try to make her crazy, because that's what he does. And when going on and working in certain environments, certain higher up people will tend to make people crazy. I've known certain upper people that have made people cry because it's a weird, goofy agenda. Like, that's what gets them off. Like, so, yeah. Um, that's the life of people that have titles and stuff. Which uh, whenever I was to ever go on and work in those environments, regardless if I had a title or not, I'm just like, it's like, hey man, like, this job is hard freaking enough. Like, I'm not gonna say that I have like anything different than anyone else here, even though I did have a title at some parts of jobs, but that didn't mean to me. It was just like, dude, like, if uh, I didn't get this job, you probably would have. Just because you were here like a day less than I was. But anyways, so who cares? So then we go on and have Lee make her way back to her mother, that just stays in the car and waits for Lee to be done with her job because this woman just is to have nothing else going on in her life. Maybe she doesn't want to go home, and that's okay. So Lee is now in the tub, and she's practicing how she's going to go on and answer the phone, which will not end up being the way that I guess she answers the phone, because eventually Gray will correct her on how to talk on the phone later on in the film. So Gray ends up giving Lee a letter, and is to tell her to send 4 copies of this letter to O'Malley and Barrett. So Gray is noticing that Lee is starting to assort quite a bit of the office here, and Gray is kind of praising Lee for going on and doing stuff like this, because of course the office was in shambles when Lee got there. Lee is in the bathroom, and it's to turn to seemingly this other office person that is working in this building somewhere, and she is to go on and be seemingly the new secretary. Lee is, and Lee is to talk to this woman and be like, yeah, I'm the new secretary. And so Lee turns to this woman and is like, do you know what exactly a paralegal is? And the woman just turns to her, says nothing, and walks off. So Lee, trying to butter up her boss, is to give him a couple of donuts, and is to watch him go on and adjust his seemingly flowers, his garden, whatever this really is, within his office, which seems kind of weird. Shouldn't have really been outside, but near much more of the sunlight. But that's just me. So Gray ends up going on and telling Lee here that he feels that he had accidentally thrown out some notes on a Feldman's case. So Gray is hoping that Lee will go on into the dumpster to try and find it. And then when she goes on and tries to find it, this kind of ends up almost similar to the movie Vampire Kiss with Nicolas Cage, where Nicolas Cage goes on and sends a girl named Alba to find this file, and he's telling her that whatever you have to do to find this file, you're going to find this file. I'm never going to fire you. You're going to find. Like, he gets so livid with this girl, and he goes on and tells others that oh, she's a moron, she's an idiot, how can she not find this file? And eventually the guys who are going on and talking to Nicholas's character in this movie are like, hey man, it's okay if you don't find the file, if anything, I get that you guys have so much of these things and it's really difficult to find. And Nick ends up turning around to tell Alba, it's like, I just got reamed out by these guys. And so he lies about it in front of her. And he's like, you better find that file. And then when she finally does go on and find the file in the movie, he's like, too late. Too late. Yeah. As well as him also going on and spouting out the whole alphabet. I've gone on and said way too much about this movie, and no one will probably care. And then also be like, dude, you're going into a whole different rant about a whole nother movie. But maybe you've never seen Vampire Kiss before, and maybe you actually should, because it's a goofy and funny film that you may enjoy, because you're watching this review of me blabbering about a movie that you may or may not have already seen, and are just like, why is he talking about all this? So Lee gets out of the dumpster as it seems that Gray is to distract himself with doing some push-ups. why doesn't this guy have a gym in his office? That would make a lot more sense. He can go on and grab some dumbbells or actually do things that are to probably be better off. Or no, wait, he's not doing push-ups. He's doing sit-ups. My bad. Heaven forbid I know the general physical education of what is to be a sit-up and a push-up. Heaven forbid I can tell the difference. So, here is where Lee notices that her mother is still parked by the office, and she's like, I'm gonna be here for the next 5 hours. Why are you still here, mother? And she's like, well, I'll still be here. Like, what? Like, just not really coming up with anything, but just like, oh, I'll still be here waiting for you. All right, okay. Like, I guess you have nothing better to do. So, as Lee finally goes on and brings Gray the file, the case, he goes on and says, oh, yeah, I have another set, so, like, I guess you took too long. Of course he does. So, here is where Lee is to be given this thing of coffee by Gray and, like, more sugar, and I need 6 copies of these. So, Lee is to go on and get this thing from out of the fridge. And then she turns around and is starting to put all these mousetraps all around Gray's office. Lee notices that Gray had thrown away the donuts, because of course he did. It's not that he probably didn't want to eat them, because this guy is also a health nut. Maybe he, of course, doesn't like this kind of food. As well as also, like, it seems that he just loves to just kind of throw away food. It's really weird and bizarre. Like, he consistently just throws away food in this movie. It doesn't make sense. So, but also there's sometimes where I just don't like to eat food because, like, I'm trying to cut weight or I'm trying to diet, so I can understand refusing food. So maybe actually uh maybe Gray's on a diet. Maybe that's why he's throwing away all his junk. So Lee notices the donuts in the trash. She's like, oh, throw it away. So as Lee is to struggle with one of the traps, Gray is like, oh, come over here. I'll fix it. I'll do it. And then is to have Lee make her way to this other side of the office where she has to really bend over, and Gray notices that Lee is to have seemingly some band-aids across her leg. And so he's like, and she's like, and it's like, it's like, yeah. The two of them notice that yeah. So, as well as also, I'm sure Lee notices, like, hey, you're looking at my leg. You're looking at me, in that manner of way of which, anyways, pushing on. So, Lee is to, of course, try to go on and answer the phones, and there seems to be uh, a woman named Trisha that makes her way into the office. So Lee is dealing with two things at the same time, and Trisha is turning to Lee and telling her, like, submissive, like, go on and try to get rid of this person because, like, it doesn't matter what they're talking about. So Lee figures out a way to say that she doesn't care how much long distance calls they're making each month, and she hangs up the phone. So Trisha turns to Lee and tell her what her name is, and, like, say that that Lee is gonna have to go on and tell, of course, Gray that Trisha is here. So Lee makes her way to Lee's office as Lee seems to be cowering in this closet or in this door. And Lee tells Gray about Trisha being here, and he says, like, well, hey, tell her I'm not here. Make up some excuse. So Lee tells Trisha that Gray is gone, and obviously Trisha notices that his coat is there. So Trisha takes Gray's coat and is to stomp all over it. So while that's going on, Lee is also getting another phone call from her father, who it seems is to have gotten lost somewhere downtown. And really, Lee is just like, God, I'm just dealing with so much right now. Oh my God. So Lee is to go on and talk to Trisha here and say, well, hey, is there any message that I should give to Mr. Gray? And Trisha ends up saying, tell him to sign the settlement. So as Lee tried to get back on the phone with her father's long gone. So Lee is now tempted because of all that she just had to deal with X number of seconds ago. She is raring to go to again, within office, take out her seemingly bag assortment of stuff to then hurt herself. And Gray is to then seemingly conveniently pop his head out to notice that Lee is doing this, and then so she realizes, oh, like I guess I shouldn't be doing this. Let's try to go back to what I was doing. And when Lee kind of turns back, Gray has disappeared. So Lee's mother ends up asking her, it's like, well, hey, how did your job go today? Like, how is Mr. Gray? And so Lee is going like, fine, fine. So Lee's mother is like, well, hey, Peter called. You know, remember the guy that you danced with at the wedding? Like, it seems like the two of you are going to go on and hit it off for some goofy reason, but maybe it might not end up that way by the end of the film. So, but man, this relationship had some promise, sadly enough. So, in the very beginning of this, we weirdly have this date between both Lee and both Peter, but I guess this really shows, like, how fascinating a first date could really be, also. But, anyways, so they have this date basically at this laundromat slash arcade, and also like it's somewhat of a restaurant. It's very weird, it's very unusual, but I kind of liked how unusual this first date was. So Peter asks Lee if she is to be a person that washes uh her clothes like as soon as they're dirty, or if like she kind of washes their clothes when she thinks they're dirty or something, some weird goofy thing like that. And bizarrely, when Lee is looking for the answer from Peter, Peter ends up saying like, well, I'm the kind of guy that likes to get married and likes to have kids. I guess a very weird icebreaker here. And Lee ends up asking, like, I wash my clothes just when they're dirty. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, me too, me too. All right. Like, and that's what counts in our relationship. That'll kind of make us kind of relatable to one another, and that'll give us some kind of levity in the situation of like, hey, we have something in common. So Lee turns to Peter and states that it seems that he was different now than he was in high school. And Peter ends up replying with like, well, I had a nervous breakdown. And Lee is like, well, I had one of those I had one of those too. So again, common ground here between the two of them. So Lee and Peter are going on and they're washing their clothes. And coincidentally, Gray goes to the exact same area to wash his clothes. So it seems as Gray finds Lee and Peter there, he's like sneaking around, trying to just figure out what's going on. And then he oddly is to just kind of back away and go into his car, and he has this weird red pen there, this red marker. And so the following day, he's going through and scrutinizing Lee's papers and finding some kind of error that he can scribble with this red marker to shove it in Lee's face, because I guess gender had two R's in it. So Gray runs to Lee and is throwing this paper in her face. It's like, this letter has 3 typing errors. This isn't the first time this has ever happened. If anything, like, I've gone on and seen numerous errors in the last couple of weeks of you working here, but since you were new, like, I let it slide. But now, like, I'm gonna scrutinize all this and make sure that you don't get all these typing errors. So Lee goes on and retypes this paper, and Gray takes the paper, ruffles up in front of her, and like, don't waste my time. Type this again. So Lee is now going on and typing this paper, and instead of her going on and cutting into herself, she then takes her dress and cuts into it and is to put the piece of cloth onto her typewriter to just be like, yeah, I did something. So after Gray is to get done with this meeting with this woman, Lee comes in, and so Gray is to state like, well, hey, type out a bill for this woman for $500, and also he starts to rip into Lee here, metaphorically speaking. So he goes on and states like, well, you are a visual representation of this office, and the way you dress is disgusting. And you're also tapping your toes a lot, and you're playing with your hair, and it seems that you also are sniffling. And like the thing with what you do with your tongue when you're typing, like I noticed that too. And so Lee is to go on and be like, well, I'm sorry that I am sniffling. And so Gray is like, yeah, you do that. It's like, well, you do. And I'm just like, man, just like I guess he's telling her, fix all that fix that. I'm like, god dang it, man. Like, wow. So Lee goes off and is to practice her thanking thanking her boss for the suggestions to fix herself. And so she goes on and is practicing this and then making her way to her boss. By that time, it seems that he is having some shouting match on the phone or something. And I think it's with like Trisha, and they're arguing it out. Or like it's someone who's talking adjacent about her. So it's really not the time for Lee to budge in here. So here is now where Lee is meeting with Peter's parents. I'm like, all right, like this relationship is going well. Like, good for Lee. All right. But again, this relationship will go nowhere. So we have Peter's parents, and I really like them. They're nice, warming parents. I love this. So Peter's mom tells Lee, it's like, you know what I think Peter had said about you, that he thought he had found his soulmate, and it's like, ah, so Lee's mom is saying that, like, well, Peter's sister Lindsay is getting married soon. Like, maybe we'll have a double wedding. And like Lee's father, it's like, well, yeah, Peter does have a stable job at J.C. Penney's. Yeah, we'll see how stable that is now when that company doesn't really exist. And I'm freaking honestly happy for that it doesn't exist, because oh man, I've already said it. I've already just the horror stories. So now Lee back at the office with Mr. Gray. Gray is calling for Lee, come to the library. And Lee is going on and shoving these nasal sprays up her nose to stop her from sniffling. Heaven forbid. So we have Gray that is having this tape recorder to, I guess, go on and possibly be a future thing that I guess Lee may type, or that he is to go on and come up with for some lawyer thing that he is to have to go on and say here. Who knows? So here's where Gray goes on and is to tell Lee that the phone is ringing. And the phone is not actually ringing. She's like, what? So Lee picks up the phone that isn't ringing, and she answers it, and she has to come up with a response of opening to a person that isn't really there. So Lee goes on the phone and is to answer the phone, and we then have Gray that is telling her, it's like, well, hey, like, you really need to have your voice like be bigger, and you need to like project out of your throat, and so on. So as well as also Lee asks, or Gray asks Lee, it's like, well, hey, did you get enough sleep last night? Just being a real a-hole. So Lee then goes on and answers the phone the way Gray wants it to be answered. And he likes it, he enjoys it. So Gray ends up having Lee just kind of sit by him. And so here's where he starts asking her questions. Like, well, hey, like, do you have a date recently? Oh, with Peter. Peter? Oh, okay. So, did you sleep with him? And Lee is just like, like, oh, I get it. You're shy. I'm shy. And Lee's like, you're not shy. You're a lawyer. And he's like, no, like, I'm shy. And so, but he's also stated that he's overcome his shyness because of his job. And so, if anything, like, here's where Gray wants to open up a rapport, a discussion between the two of them, and say, like, well, hey, like, I feel that it's time that, like, whatever problems we have between the two of us, we should just kind of discuss things. Like, I get that we have an employer-employee kind of thing going on here, but like, I want us to just kind of, uh, like have more of a rapport. So Gray ends up asking Lee about like, well, yeah, I did saw the sewing kit and I did see the band-aids. Like, why do you harm yourself? And is it because sometimes the pain inside has to come from the surface? And I guess something like that could possibly be comforting. Yada yada yada. So here is where Gray tells Lee, it's like, don't ever cut yourself again. Uh, like that is like in your past. It's over now. And like, if anything, because of what Gray is going to in the future do to Lee, like it alternates that whole, like her doing that to herself, where what Gray is going to do to her, yeah. So Gray tells Lee that it's like, you know what, like I want you to go on and I want you to leave work early. And I also want to tell your mother that you're just gonna walk here from every day because you're a grown woman. Like you can go on and like you need a nice walk, fresh air, and like it can give you some relief by doing that. It's like, yeah, you can also probably go on and walk every day and it'll be raining and it'll be shitty and it'll be whatever. But hey, like that's the life that you've led or forced to lead, to just kind of walk to and from work every day. But also, I guess, uh, like walking to and from work gives you exercise. It helps you lose weight. Like I've gone on and done that a plethora of different years, and yeah, like it probably wasn't great during the winter time, but logically, uh, it felt good if I am to just kind of go into work really early and also just kind of do some shopping around like the store or other stores before I go into go about my work day, because that was nice to just kind of reward myself for doing that walk by like getting a beverage or a snack or something before I go into work, because a lot of times I didn't have really much of a lunch when I went into actual work. So Gray goes on and is to Polaroid take a picture of an actual picture where he has to go on and kind of fling it, and it's one of those quick made photos of Lee. And it seems that he ends up eventually holding a collection of all those and he burns them in a later part of the film. So Lee tells her mother that she's going to walk home and that's what she's going to do from now on. And as Lee is to walk home, she realizes that it seems that Gray was to be like walking with her that whole entire time, and it made her feel great and this and that. So, but as Lee is to continue to end up with working with Gray, she started to see something about Gray that was creeping in, his darker half, his darker part of his self. And so we again have the typos, and Gray is to circle them in this red marker and give them to Lee. And here is where Gray is like, what is wrong with you? Is this all you have to do? Uh, so Gray turns to Lee. It's like, what is inside that head of yours? It's like, man. So here is where we step it up a notch as far as where things start to get a little cray cray. Whatever. I don't know. This is so awkward. Let's get into this. And I'm sure it's probably like, no, man, like hey, it's just some just you know, yeah, whatever. I don't know why it should be awkward. I should be so comfortable with saying this stuff, but it just like this kind of like it would be easy if it's just like intimacy and bedroom business and whatever, and I just like skirted away by that. But yeah, not quite the same here. Not the quite same easy to just skirt this all away, but regardless, I'm stating it all here now. So uh let's just say that Gray gets a little slap happy. So uh so Gray has Lee come to his office, like, come into my office and bring that letter with you. So Lee comes to the office and he tells her, it's like, okay, bend over the desk and start reading the letter. And Lee's like, well, I don't understand what you, and he's like, there's nothing to understand. Just do what I tell you. So she leans over the desk and starts reading the letter, and a hand comes into Lee's rear. And when she is to get to the parts where there is to be a typo, again, there is to be a slappening that is to be happening. And then, after the letter is to seemingly be done, as at some point Lee is to be turning and looking at Gray, he is to tell her to read it again. And so she does so. And then it seems that she just continues to just breathe, and he just continues to just wha 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 wha. This just yeah, just goes to town, just has a good old time. And Lee, it seems, is just like, it seems that she's getting off on this. It seems that she later is to find that she likes this. To where eventually she tries to replicate it without Lee there, and it doesn't come off as the same. To where she wants Peter to do it too, and he just won't. He tries other things. And Lee doesn't like that. Um she wants that kind of approach instead of the normal intimacy that anyone is to, I guess, usually get. Because that gets her going, I guess. So after it seems that Gray is to get his number of backhands and whatever in, he goes on to tell Lee to straighten up and type the letter again, and type it better this time around, I guess. So Lee goes off to a mirror to find that she has this big, huge purple bruise on her back end, and like, yeah, I'm sure this can be fairly hard for her to sit. So Lee goes on and types the letter, and I think at this point we have Gray, who has no real concern for the letters at some point when probably Lee does it the best, and just treats her like she doesn't exist, because again, that could be just like a what letter. So Lee hands Gray the letter, and so Lee is now at the copy machine, and Gray does something good here, and he goes to Lee, and he's like, Lee, good letter. And then he walks off, and then Lee's like, all right, good, like I did it right. And also, like, he acknowledged me, which was nice. Even though, again, what happened a little before that? Anyways, like, and they also end talking about like harassment at some point in the movie, And like Lee never thinks about that. She's just like, no, uh like Lee just doesn't have that kind of frame of mind and whatever. But they talk about that kind of briefly in this film also about the somebody going on and having harassment being done and yeah, let's keep going here. So we'll bring that up when it comes up in the part of the film. So uh Lee tells her mother, it's like, well, hey, I don't think you need to lock that cabinet anymore. And Lee's mother turns to Lee and hugs her. It's like, all right, like you've done it. And Lee takes her kit of stuff that she has harmed herself with and throws it into the water. She never needs to do it again. She's on this bridge, tossing this thing overboard. And so here is where we now are to be reminded of the very beginning of the film via here, where now Lee is having this stick and her arms are just kind of dangling, and she is to have to figure out how to grab these things with this stick just kind of holding her hands hostage. And also, we would go on to have also at some point where Lee within this film is like walking on all fours with the letter to give to Gray, and like that I thought was like, god dang, like man, this woman is to have just a load of confidence in this movie, just to be like so free that way, and just be like, dang, that's freaking hot. But anyways, let's move on here. So Gray is to hand Lee this thing for her to eat, and she like goes from his hand, is like, and eats it. I'm just like, all right, just uh, what, whatever floats this couple's boat, I guess. Uh, anyways, so uh, Gray is turning to Lee and talking about how they need to replace one of the light bulbs and get a 120-watt light bulb. And Lee is kind of making notes of this. And they're going on and talking to uh this guy. It looks like he's in like repairman gear or something. And Lee apologizes to this guy for the typo, and he's just like, whatever. So, uh, and here's where we get the crawling scene that I forgot about when it actually was. So Lee is calling Gray from her home and telling her exactly what she's to have around her as far as a meal is concerned. And Gray is telling her exactly what to eat. To have like 1 scoop of potatoes and 4 peas and all the ice cream you can want. And so Lee is going into all this, and later she's gonna go on and just be like just strumming the old banjo while remembering that she had only gone on and had 4 peas and and a slice of mashed potatoes and yeah, uh that is to help her and good for her, that was somehow to be uh her setting off moment. So Gray is to go on and saddle this woman, and I am just like, wow, okay. Uh, he puts a horse saddle upon her and then puts a carrot in her mouth, and I am just like, okay, all right. So now Lee is starting to go on and do some research. She's looking into some Cosmo magazines, And Cosmo's advice for getting your man to share his feelings more intimately is to first try some breezy humor. Yeah, I'm sure that's gonna get your man to easily open up. Knock knock, who's there? This is dumb. This is dumb who? This is dumb that I'm doing breezy humor to try to get you to open up about your feelings. Oh, whatever. So here is where Lee goes to play the old banjo in her bedroom. And she's going on and fantasizing about flowers blooming and Gray being there and hugging her, and then all of a sudden both Lee and Peter are on top of one another on this washer and dryer, and Lee is telling Gray that uh, she is his secretary and like saying it with some gusto. And then, of course, remembering that scoop of cream potatoes. Cream potatoes. So we go on and now have Lee, who is just trying as much as possible to just now type typos so that way she can hand them to Gray so he will go on and discipline her. And Gray, of course, is having a phone call and he's very distracted. And Lee is looking at the red pens. It's like he didn't grab any of them. He's not looking at this. He's not really reading it. So Gray's continued talking about this overweight child or something about a nephew in Baltimore. And Lee is going on and she is taking this envelope and she's like, and Gray is turning to Lee. It's like, I have to work right now. Like, we cannot do this. So Lee is going on and going through and doing what she needs to do with this letter. So Lee goes on and tells Gray that she's leaving for the day. And it's like, well, hey, I'm going home now unless you need more typing done. I could come back later if that's what you need. And Gray goes on and is now very awkward against Lee. And he's just like, well, like, good night. Like, good job today. So here is where Lee is now with a bunch of her family members or friends or whatever, and here's where they're talking about uh, going to Red Lobster and going for a nightcap, or uh, or harassments and this and that and so on and so forth. And Lee is telling these women that like, well, hey, like I work for a lawyer and he's the best, and maybe she should go on and represent you in this harassment trial. So we come to find out that Lee's father is now in the hospital, and I don't know if he dies or not. It doesn't really seem that that's clear whether if he passes away. Um, or maybe I'm probably going to see him at some point in the movie, and I'm going to probably realize, oh, he's not dead, and it'll just be another one of those where somebody's going to be like, oh yeah, he didn't die in the film. He is just in the hospital, because everybody always does that in every single one of these reviews, where someone will correct me about some little detail that I wasn't sure about if someone died in the hospital. But After that happens, after Lee finds out and Father Hospital, Lee goes racing to Gray while he's racing on a treadmill, and Lee is turning to Gray. It's like I just wanted you to not forget about the whole Lynch papers tomorrow. And Gray is like, well, I didn't go on and I didn't look into those, so thank you for telling me about that. And so Gray is to just be like, well, is that it? And so Lee's like, well, yeah, that's all I wanted to tell you. And so then Lee walks off, and so Gray goes into his room, and so Lee wasn't being honest with Gray. Kind of sucks. So because Lee did not go on and tell Gray what she wanted right then and there, and it felt like there was more to say, and Lee just didn't say it. That's where all of a sudden Gray is starting to turn on Lee and is completely stopping what they had gone on and continued to do with one another. And Lee starts to get upset about it because she's like, okay, like, it just seems like after like after we were talking in the house, it just feels like he's just kind of back to his old ways, and like it felt like he's just stopped doing what he did. And so Lee has even gone on to throw away all the red pens, and Lee is throwing away all the whiteout. So Lee is just thinking at this point that it's like, well, I guess that this is never just going to happen again. Like, I guess that it's been far too long now that it's just not going to ever go on and be what it was. So Lee gets to the point on the desk where she bends over, and Gray ends up asking about this check from Mr. Gravy and if Lee has received it or not. And Lee is like, no, sir, I haven't. And because again, like, Gray is just disconnected. He's just so busy. There's a lot of things going on. Lee then starts to just talk to Gray about, like, well, hey, like, you're wearing a tie that has golfers on it. You're not gonna be going golfing today. And Gray is like, what? It's like, your tie, golfing. And like, oh, all right. And Lee's just like, God dang it. Like, even that, like, she can't really get his attention. So Lee then is forced to go on and find this uh, photography place. And she then brings Gray to his office this picture of her in this obviously provocative dress and flowers. And so here is where Lee goes on and takes a brush to herself and realizes it's not the same. So Lee finds this worm and puts it in Gray's paperwork, and eventually Gray is to find out about it. So, as well as also, like, Gray is kind of peeping, he's kind of creeping, and he forces himself to go into the bathroom and is trying to just wash himself off because he's just like, man, like, why can't I just stop? Like, why can't I just stop being this way? He's trying to control himself. So Peter and Lee are seemingly getting intimate, and Lee is shifting in a way that is to present herself as like, okay, you're gonna slap me, right? Because she kept grabbing Peter's hand to slap her on the butt, and he just doesn't do it. So Lee is hoping that Peter will be like Gray was, and he won't be. Instead, he is to flash her rubber, and she's like, "Oh, okay, all right." So she's like, "Well, if you turn off the lights and if you do, then we'll do this." So Peter, of course, gets to his moment. He goes on. He concludes. He concludes. Oh, he concludes. And Peter goes on and is at uh looking at Lee. It's like, well, I didn't hurt you, did I? And Lee is like, no, you did nothing. You did nothing to her. Because logically, like, you didn't give her what she wanted. You just like did not satisfy her. So that is obviously like that's why she doesn't want to go on and end up being with Peter, because he won't satisfy her. So that's why it didn't last, Peter. Regardless of how it seems that you were good and noble and a good guy, still like you should have wanted to take the time to figure out a way to make that woman happy in the bedroom. Problem number one. So Gray goes on and finds the worm in his letter, and so now he goes on and he's doing chin ups. Doing chin ups, everybody. And so Gray goes on and is to put a big old red marker on this worm, scribbling this big huge circle. And as Mr. Marvel is to be sitting and waiting in the background here, Gray ends up telling Lee, "Come to my office." And Lee is like, "Well, somebody's waiting. I don't give a like. Come to my office." So ignore it. Ignore everything. So Peter makes his way to the office as well, and Gray won't even allow Lee to figure out a way to physically talk to Peter to get him to go away. She, through a door, has to go on and tell Peter that she won't be able to be with him at lunch. And Peter's just like, oh, okay, all right. And so he backs away. So here is where, again, Gray has Lee bend over the desk, and she's looking at the worm, the letter, and so this time around, we have Lee that seems to be cranking it. You guys don't remember at one point, because you would have to really go through a lot of videos to figure this out. I'm to go on and say that I'm to be a Stephen Lynch fan. And there is one song where Stephen Lynch talks about cranking it, and a family member like walks in and as he's doing it, and it ends being his father. Yeah, that is a very awkward song. But logically, like there's actually some really good Stephen Lynch songs, like especially the Halloween one I really like, even though it's very weird and whatever, but it's just kind of making fun of Halloween, as well as also just kind of making fun of like just these weird and questionable and awkward situations that Stephen Lynch is just really good on. So if you like to just hear some comedy music, check out Stephen Lynch. He really has some fun stuff. There's one where it's about what Yoda says in bed, and I think that is really funny. Sleep in the wet spot, I won't. Sleep in the wet spot, I won't. Anyways, so uh, so Gray tells Lee to lift up her skirt, drop her leggings, and he then is to start adjusting. And once he gets to an adjustment that is to seemingly give him some conclude, he then is to conclude upon this woman. So she is to make her way to the bathroom and try to clean the back of herself. And we then have Gray, after he concludes, is to tell Lee that it's like, oh, like I want to go on and I want my sandwich. Like I'm gonna eat in here, and uh, and you will have your usual, but with no mayo this time, and send what's his name, Mr. Marvel, send him in. Coincidentally, James Spader will be a part of a Marvel project, and it'll be Age of Ultron. You would have never thought that this guy would have ended up in a Marvel movie, but I guess people just like the Blacklist so much. It's like, heck yeah, put him in a Marvel movie. He's done some different content more recently, and you won't see his face, so regardless, you'll just need his voice. So, uh, so here's where Lee goes in the bathroom, and she is taking this note, and here's where she lifts up her skirt and strumming on the old banjo. There we go. And the whole entire time, there is another woman in the bathroom, other bathroom stall, that is hearing this. And so Gray goes on to find every single letter that at some point uh, Lee is to make, and he takes them and he breaks them because they're kind of in these frames. He breaks everything. And Lee is going on and listening to these tapes that are to be how to come out as a dominant or submissive. Because this girl is doing research. Bravo to her. Like, she is really booking on tape this whole endeavor. So Gray is going on and burning his mementos, and he then is to start typing on this letter that he is disgusted with himself, and he doesn't know why he's like this, and he's trying to type this letter to Lee because I don't think he can say it himself. So as Lee comes into the office, Gray then takes a shredder to the letter, and that rhymed weirdly, and Gray then has Lee come in here, and is to go on and ask her, it's like, well, do you plan on getting pregnant? No. Are you living in an apartment? I live at my home with my parents. Are you married? Uh, are those your scores? Again, this feels like how they met. So Gray turns to Lee. It's like, do you really want to be my secretary? And eventually, this is where things start to change from the very first bit of dialogue they had between one another. As Lee is to go on and say, it's like, well, Gray is like, I like you, Lee, but I don't think I'm going to offer you this job. It's your behavior. Like, it isn't about the typos, the tapes, the staples, the pencils, the worm. It's none of that. So, uh, so Gray tells Lee that she needs to collect her things, and the two of them tell one another that they're fired. You're fired. You're fired. And so Gray continues to tell Lee that she needs to go. She needs to get out of here. So he also goes on as to ridicule her uh, about certain things that she has to go on and do. Uh, where it's also about like taking her shoes off and her feet smell, and and there's little shavings on the desk, and she has her Walkman with her, and like he hates that he has her Walkman with her. Like he's coming up with all kinds of excuses here. So Lee is saying like, well, hey, I will go on and I will change and I'll do all this stuff. So Gray goes on and says like, you know what, like I can't do this anymore. Like you have to go. Like I won't stop. And Lee is like, well, I want to know you. And and Gray is like, I can't do this anymore. And so it's like, I'm sorry for what happened between us. I realize what a terrible mistake I made. And he's stating that he can go on and give her excellent references if she is to try to find a future job like this. And he's telling her to get out. So Leah's going on and taking all of her stuff and getting the heck out of this office. She then goes on to realize that the previous secretary is going through the exact same thing that she did, and maybe she was just like her. So, come to find out, Gray had given Lee this envelope that is to be $608, well more than what she was actually supposed to be paid. But Lee didn't take the check, and Lee didn't uh, take the money. So at first, Lee pretended that she was going to work, and even also watching Gray's off at this point, like a hawk. And so eventually, what goes on and happens is Lee tries to find other men that are similar to Gray that she used to go on and start to date and start to torture. And some have stuff that deals with cooking. Some are masochists, and some are to want them to be peed on and stuff of that nature. So, but eventually, one after the other, these relationships just don't work out. So, oh yeah, the father doesn't die. Here we go again! A person that I thought was dead isn't dead. Great! Everybody just slam me in the comments like everyone always does. Yeah, I forgot about this scene. So, finally, it seems Lee's father is to find sobriety. And so Lee is going on at this point in the movie and helping her father finally trying to get sober and help him out with that. And then Peter is to go on and meet with Lee and propose to her. And so Peter's mother is going on and putting together a dress for Lee. And Lee runs off, making her way to Gray's office as there is to be a new secretary there. So Lee confesses to Gray that she loves him. And Gray is like, we can't do this 24/7. Like we can't. And Lee is like, well, why not? And so Gray is to go on and try to see how much Lee really does feel for Gray. And so it's like, oh, okay, well, how about you go on and you put your hands on the desk and palms down and wait for me. So she does. So this goes on for days. So Gray calls Peter and tells Peter where Lee is. And Gray even tries to call Lee to see if she will go on and give up and try to answer the phone, but she grabs it with her mouth. And Gray looks at that and he's like, well, like, I'm very fond of you as well, Lee. Like, but he just wants to see if she will wait for him. So Peter arrives and like Peter's like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? Like, is this some kind of sex thing? Like, what is happening here? Like, I'm your fiance. Like, and consistently Lee is telling now Peter, it's like, hey, get out of here. You're trespassing. Uh, and this and that. She wants nothing to do with him. Uh, and so on and so forth. So eventually it gets to the point where Peter gets Lee out of this chair, and the two of them are now kind of rustling, and Lee knees Peter in the nuts and then gets back into the chair, gets back onto the desk, uh and so Lee tells Peter that she does not want him. Really just making sure it's like, I do not want to be with you anymore. So Peter gets it, he leaves. So now there is just a load of time of passing. There's a bunch of people that one by one come in to meet with Lee. Peter's mother wants the dress dry cleaned and whatever. And some people are going on and giving Lee these books to read. And therapists are coming in. And everybody's trying to one by one come in and talk to Lee to try to convince her to to either leave or just continue to do whatever that she freaking wants. Her father comes in and ends up having this book of the Bible. You are the child of God, holy gift of life. You come from me, but you are not me. Your soul and your body are your own, and yours to do with what you wish. Really just having the father say, like, hey man, like, I've made mistakes, so if you want to make a mistake, then go ahead, just do whatever you want to do. And Lee is telling her father, thank you, daddy. So Gray is going on and just having a life of his own, just kind of eating a meal and just throwing it in the trash. And so uh everybody's going on and just kind of waiting this out. They're getting drinks and orders and whatever. They're just kind of seeing how this all is going to play out. So a load of time has passed at this point, and weirdly enough, Gray no longer finds comfort in his own bed, so he seeks the floor to sleep on. So the news is now covering Lee's uh, going on here, and they're mentioning that she's having some hunger strike, and they don't know exactly why she's having this hunger strike, but she is. So finally, Lee is to get a rescuing here, as Gray is to finally go on and read this letter from Lee. This whole slog of a thing that I'm not going to go on and read here, because if you want to read it, check out the film. Or you want to hear it, check out the film. So Gray makes his way back to Lee, gives her a beverage, and then carries her out of this place, and then cleans her, bathes her, wipes her down, and is to be in a grass bed with her. And Lee at this point is to feel beautiful. She touched the soil, and uh, also uh, Lee loves Gray, and Gray loves her back. So, come to find out, they end up going on, and they end up getting married together, and uh, they end up consummating the wedding by them kind of just having Lee being tied to this tree, and Gray is just like thrusting her against this tree. So also there is a point where Gray wants a certain bed made a certain way where it's like pillows smallest to biggest or largest to smallest. And so by the end of this tale, we have Lee that is to find a bug and put it on for Gray to find. And like so I guess this is kind of the way for both Lee to get back at Gray and for Gray to be upset to have him like figure out a way to punish her. So but that's just the way the movie ends. Gray going on and leaving off for work as Lee is now watching on. So with that said, I'm gonna get the heck out of here. So I can put this video out for today. Luckily, it was all in one video, and I don't have to hopefully go on and figure out a way to just put this all together in one thing. That's nice. So with that said, I'm gonna get the heck out of here because I know probably the length of this video is way too long for a movie like this that a lot of people may not care about. But I went on and I just said everything that I could, and I tried to get this video done as quickly as humanly possible. So, bye everybody. Bye everybody.